Hello and welcome to another episode of In Real Life with Edrina. My name is Edrina. I am the owner and accountant here at Accounting by Edrina, and today's topic is small business taxes with Marjorie, and she is from Marjorie McPike CPA. Marjorie is a CPA focusing on tax and small business accounting located in Riverside County, California. She was born and raised in San Diego and attended San Diego State University with a concentration in accounting. She recently completed her Master of Science in Taxation from Golden Gate University. Prior to working in public accounting, Marjorie worked in the private industry, holding various positions such as controller, business office manager, accounts receivable manager, and full charge bookkeeper. She has a vast knowledge of bookkeeping and accounting skills in various industries, including healthcare, manufacturing, retail, and professional services. Her current areas of focus are estate and gift taxation of individuals, and taxation of business entities. Now, we are recording one long video. We're going to split it into two videos. So this is the first part in a 2-video series. So stay tuned for next week when we release the second part in this 2-video series. There is a wealth of knowledge in these videos, and so I highly encourage you to save this video. Make sure to give it a like, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can be the first to know of when the second video goes live. All right, let's get started. And in today's episode, I have Marjorie from Marjorie McPike CPA, and I'm so happy that she's here. She is a certified CPA, and we have a lot to get through in this video. We might even cut it into 2 videos, but I wanted to say welcome, Marjorie.
Thank you, Edrina. So thank you so much for having me. As Edrina mentioned, my name is Marjorie. I am a CPA. I'm out of Southern California, and I'm the owner of Marjorie McPike CPA. I've been doing this on my own since December of 2020. And prior to that, I worked in public accounting for 19 years. That's
Wow.
a long time. Yeah.
Yes.
19 years.
Yeah. So what degree do you have? Where did you grow up? And then what brought you here?
So I grew up in Southern California, in San Diego, born and raised in San Diego, which is rare. There aren't too many of us.
Yeah.
And I went to started college. I went to a junior college, and took me a little while because life happened. So didn't do the traditional role, went off, got married, had kids, and then I went back to school and finished my degree. Graduated from San Diego State with the bachelor's in accounting. And then about 9 years ago, I guess, I decided that I wanted to get my master's in tax. Nice. So I have my bachelor's accounting and my master's in tax.
Wow. Wow. That must have been a grueling time getting through your master's in tax.
It was. And mainly because it wasn't what I expected.
Yeah.
I'm a numbers person, but a master's in tax is tax law.
Yeah.
So I was reading tax laws, reading tax cases, and writing reports, and so it was a little bit challenging, but I'm thankful for the opportunity. I'm thankful for the information. And I'm thankful to be able to know how to go back and to research a tax issue instead of just to kind of say something off the top of my head, which so many people do. So
yeah, for sure. So kind of like from that point, what brought you here as far as like having your own business, running your own firm? What were kind of like some of the like trigger points that you were like, I think I should be doing this on my own?
Working in public accounting, I started at a very small firm, but keep in mind that prior to that, I was in private industry. That's what we like to call it. So I worked as a full charge bookkeeper and a business office manager, accounts receivable manager in nursing homes. So that was my beginning career. And then once I got my degree, I decided to get my CPA license and then went into public accounting. And I just found it challenging. It's like going into the field later in life. You have to be positioned correctly, right? So you have to have the best grades, know the teachers in a sense, attend the meetings, get to know the people, know the route to take in order to be successful in the field. And with me being a single parent, working in a company where I was required to, I had major responsibilities. in the company that I worked with while raising 2 kids by myself, because for a period of time I was a single parent. So I didn't go to all of those meetings. So it was a little bit more challenging. And so then being in the Inland Empire and not knowing all those different things, it made it even more challenging kind of getting into the right firm. So
Yeah.
once I did kind of get to where I wanted to be, there were some other challenges and I just didn't see the growth that I wanted to see. And that kind of happened right around COVID. And so sitting at home, I'm working from home and I see everybody on the internet making a lot of money. And I see, everybody was making money. You're on Instagram, you're like, oh, I made $100,000 in options. And I'm sitting here cringing, oh, my business just hit $1 million. And I'm like, wait, it's like, and so I felt the need to educate. And so I started, I wrote a couple courses. I started getting on Instagram a little bit, talking, to people, and then wanting, offering consultations and things like that. And then I had to make a choice. And at that time, it was, the Black Lives Matter movement was going on. There are all those things that were happening. And I'm a part of an organization called the Alliance of Black Women Accountants. And we were getting so many phone calls from people that were looking specifically for a Black female CPA. And I'm answering the phone and like, oh, I'm looking for a Black female CPA. I'm looking for a Black female CPA. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's me. That's me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I think it's time. So when I had to make the choice, I was presented with stay an employee at the company or do my own thing. And I felt that if I was going to be an employee, I wanted to be an employee where I was able to do what I wanted to do. And so I decided to leave.
Yeah.
And it was my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
it's
wonderful.
Been good.
Yes. I love that trajectory that you had. So tell me again, what was the name of the organization that you're involved with? Alliance of
Black Women Accountants. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded so I'm one of the founding members. We started, there was like 5 or 6 of us that met in our past president's living room. And that was just because she was a director at a CPA firm, a large Big 4 CPA firm. And so she had different connections with different people. And just her relationships over the years, she brought us together and we developed and wanted to form this organization in order to help other Black female young ladies that were in accounting to navigate the field. So looking back on my experience, like had I had someone that looked like me or that was vested in my future, it may have changed the way, I approached my accounting career. And so that's what we try to do. We try to go back and make accounting aware as a profession to individuals. So trying to get back into the high schools and the middle schools and junior colleges, and then supporting them through that journey. So.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Is it through like, are you hosting events? Are you doing one-on-one time or?
So we have general meetings like 6 times a year. So every other month we have a meeting, and then of course our board meets, but we also offer mentorship. We have partnerships with, like, recently the 100 Women of Finance. We participated in a big Cal CPA event, just doing things to bring awareness to the accounting profession. And then also the mentoring. So our past president, just to share, she passed away unexpectedly in 2020.
So sorry.
And yeah, that was very sad, very hard for us. And so our current president is really active in outreach. She has a big heart for philanthropy, the same as our past president, but something has just taken off in our current president that she's just like all over the place, and she's just wanting to help young ladies and develop relationships with different people. Recently we had an event with the 100 Women of Finance down in Los Angeles at the KPMG building. Nice. And we're all so excited because one of our members, a recent graduate, attended the meeting, right? And by her attending that meeting, she was able to develop a relationship with one of the partners from KPMG.
Nice.
She started with KPMG on Monday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You're making connections too.
Yes.
Awesome. So incredible.
We're so excited for her, and just because we tell them attend events, go out of your way, network, follow up.
Right.
And she did it. And look at this.
Yeah.
And she drove from, Riverside to LA in order to be at this event. Yeah.
A little bit of a drive if you don't live around here. It's probably an hour or so, depending on traffic, but
it's about an hour and a half. Yeah. To be there. Yeah. And then drove back and then went back the next day. So we're so happy. And those are the things that bring us joy. And not just that, but making connections with different CPA firms that can offer internships. I'm not the only one. A lot of times, you may have a student that it's not that they're not a good student, it's just that they have other responsibilities. So they're balancing school, they're balancing life, they're balancing a job. It's like, come on, I had a full-time job and 2 kids.
Yeah.
And going to school. It's like, you need to get a 4.0. It's like, come on, that's unrealistic.
That's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot.
And you're still trying to grow up too at the same time.
Right. And it's not impossible, but it's like, that's a lot. So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I could talk about that all day long.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm glad that you shared that with us. I think what we can do is leave a link down in the description box for the Alliance of Black Women Accountants if they wanted to learn more and how they can be involved as well.
Yes.
And then, so I want to just kind of like fast forward to now. So what are some things that you are working on in your firm right now? Are you working just with taxes? Are you working with some bookkeeping clients? What does your kind of like structure look like?
So right now I have both tax and bookkeeping clients. A lot of the clients that I acquired or when I first started, because of the education piece, were small business owners that weren't aware of what they needed to do for their business, right? They just started a business.
Yeah.
So a lot of it has been education. So I am working on getting them all set up on QuickBooks, helping them with bookkeeping, helping them set up systems so that we have good financial records, explaining to them the importance of tax planning, right? And being proactive. And then of course the tax preparation, but a lot of it, like I said, it's the planning and the strategies piece that's big for me, because I feel as though, one of the goals is to save on taxes. So how can I help you save on taxes? How can I help make your life less taxing? Right. So that's a lot of what it is, what I'm doing right now. So a lot of QuickBooks training and helping to build that foundation.
Are you just doing QuickBooks online or is it also desktop?
I prefer online.
Yeah.
Before I didn't, but I prefer online just because of the access.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have to wait for a client to send me information. I can go on and I can look at it anytime. And I tell them all the time, it's like, if I get on a whim and I'm working at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, hey, let me look at your books. I want to be able to look at your books, right?
Yeah.
Not having to make a note and say, send me a backup and let's do this and let's do that. So I like QuickBooks Online. It's just more convenient. Yeah. And then encouraging everyone to link their bank account and their credit card accounts and everything to it and reconcile. It just makes it so much easier.
Oh my gosh, I know. Even just like the reconciliation piece of it, it's like way easier in QuickBooks Online than it is in QuickBooks Desktop. QuickBooks Desktop is like a little like mind numbing when it comes to the bank reconciliation piece, especially if you have a lot of transactions. You're like just sitting there clicking away. It's like, oh my gosh, this is, yeah, I'm definitely a fan of QuickBooks Online.
And I think that they're kind of switching everyone to that platform as well.
Yeah. I know that there are some larger nonprofits that are still using QuickBooks Desktop. And it sounds to me like some of those nonprofits are going to be switching to Sage in tech. So that's one of the softwares that I haven't become familiar with. But I do prefer QuickBooks Online. I feel like there's so much ease to its use. It's user friendly. I think clients can go in there and sort of like figure their way around things without me necessarily telling them step 1, 2, 3, although I do that just in case. So as far as taxes are concerned, what would you say is like the most important thing when it comes to small business owners that they need to know?
The most important thing for small business owners, I would say, is to know how their taxable income was calculated, to know the numbers. I think that it's important for everyone to understand their tax return,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
So to understand, how you're being taxed based on the type of entity that you have. If it's a pass-through entity, if it's a disregarded entity, to understand that part of it, and how your income and your deductions come into play.
mhm.
Yeah, I think that's big. And then what you can do in order to save money. So it's like you can't really make any changes if you don't know what the numbers are
Hmm,
or what the numbers mean.
mhm. So
So
how would you get started in getting to know your numbers?
reviewing your tax return. So when you get your tax return, right? And this is something that I've had, I think I had like 2 or 3 phone calls recently where we're going to sit down and we're going to review their tax return. So we're going to go through the numbers. You need to know like where your income is. Is all the income accounted for? You can have different sources, Spotify, PayPal, Venmo, all that information being picked up in your income, right? And then know what your expenses are. Look at the numbers and make sure that they're realistic, right? They're reasonable.
Mhm,
So if you have on your tax return $20,000 in taxes as a deduction, you should know what you paid the $20,000 for,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
So knowing what makes up the numbers, and just kind of going through it and looking at everything. Depreciation, you don't have to know all the details, but you have to know how things are being handled on your return, and then kind of like the repercussions of it. We hear a lot about the G-Wagon, right? And deducting that as a business expense. Okay, so yes, you're deducting that as a business expense, but how is that going to affect you in the future, right? How is that affecting your current return, and how will it affect you, on next year's return, or if you dispose of the vehicle, or how are all those things gonna affect you? And then what can you do differently?
Mhm, mhm,
If you have a big tax liability, could you have done something different in order to save money on your taxes?
mhm.
Are you investing? Do you have a retirement plan? Are you in the right structure? So you have to kind of know that information. Just look at it and understand. Like I said, you don't have to know all the details, but just understand what's being represented on your tax return.
Now, if there are questions when someone is looking at their tax return and they don't quite understand the number, like they don't quite understand the depreciation, they don't quite understand how expenses are being calculated within their tax return, what would be like some areas that they could start searching for to find some of the answers? Or is that something that they need to go back to the person who filed their tax return and ask the questions? Or like what would be your advice to them?
I would go back to the person that prepared the return and ask the questions,
Mhm,
right? Because everything that's on your tax return should be substantiated by something,
mhm,
right? So like if I'm doing a business tax return, I'm going to have a P&L, right? And I'm going to make sure that that ties to my tax return. So the same person that's preparing your return, they should be able to explain to you what those numbers are.
mhm.
And even though they're preparing it, you're ultimately responsible for it. So you want to make sure that you know what you're signing for. And then the
Yeah.
same thing with the preparer is the preparer should make sure that the information that they have can be substantiated by the taxpayer.
Mhm. Yeah, so a couple of things that you mentioned there. I think the biggest piece of it for me that I want to just like draw out here is that the business owner is ultimately responsible. And a lot of times I see business owners wanting to blame their bookkeeper, their tax accountant, whoever on maybe there was a mistake, but the responsibility is really within the business owner. And so this is why we're making this point, because it is so crucial, it is so important for you to know your numbers. Like Marjorie's talking about, it's so important to know what is involved in the income, and maybe you have a separate list of here are all the income sources, here are where all the money comes from. And you, every time you receive a paperwork for that tax year, you check it off.
Mhm.
So essentially you create a list of this is all the paperwork I need that is in relation to my tax return. And this is what I do personally, because
Mhm.
I want to make sure that I'm capturing everything properly, like, yes, of course, I am on top of my bookkeeping. Yes, of course, I run the numbers every month and I look at my financials, my P&L. But if I don't have all the paperwork, like, that's really the backup. That's the substantiation to your tax return. And
Right.
again, that responsibility is on the business owner.
The business
So
owner.
I just wanted to draw that point out so that way everyone is very much aware where the responsibility lies.
Right. And
Mhm,
then you mentioned like the different sources, right? So now you're gonna you business owners will start, or not just business owners, but if you use a third party processor, you're gonna start receiving a 1099K,
mhm,
right? If
mhm,
your 1099K is more than what you're reporting on your tax return, the IRS is gonna come looking for you,
mhm,
right? So
mhm.
you want to be able to reconcile that number. So just because it's in your books doesn't mean that you just ignore it. You still want to have all the documents
Yeah,
and
and
make sure
and
that you keep
I
everything
like to say, like, everything ends up being matchy-matchy,
It
right?
is
So,
matchy
like,
matchy.
you wanna get that form, you wanna take a look at your bookkeeping software and make sure that those numbers are matchy-matchy.
Mhm.
And that, like, goes a long way when you're on top of looking at your numbers every month, and you become more familiar with your numbers as you go along. So I know, like, if you're in the beginning stages of your business right now, this might feel a little bit overwhelming, but just keep at it, because the more you do it, the more comfortable you will feel with looking at your numbers.
Right,
The more
right.
it'll make sense to you too, because then
Mhm.
you're like, oh, wait, last month income was $1,000, but this month income is $2,000, which is all great. Like, that's what we want. That's the trajectory. That's the path that we want for your business.
Mhm. Awesome. Yes, yes.
Yeah.